Hello and welcome to this episode of Authentic Achievements, where it is my absolute privilege to be sharing the session with the fabulous Dr. Julie Ducharme. But before I introduce her to you all properly, Dr. Julie, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. I know every time we have a conversation, I learn so much, and you've got such an inspiring journey. So let me share a little bit of that with our audience before we actually open up and get chatting. So you are a change maker who's dedicated your career to empowering and supporting people to achieve their endeavours and their dreams. People from all over, including corporate sector and those returning to the workforce, having taken the advice and guidance of yourself and learning how to use their strengths to maximise their work and life success. You've got a unique speaking style that ignites the passion inside all of us and makes that tiny spark into a blaze of empowerment. Since earning your MBA and doctorate degrees in business and organisational leadership, you've become a 5 times national bestselling author, recognised by Inc. magazine, host of She CEO podcast, a podcast in the top 1% of podcasts, numerous TV appearances with CBS, ABC and Fox. You're a professional public speaker, a serial entrepreneur, and your most recent book, Authentically You, Empowering Your Way to Success, is changing the way women approach their lives. And you're also a serial entrepreneur with 5 companies and a real powerhouse of energy. You're the founder and creator of Lead and Empower Her She Talks, a platform for women to share their stories and fill the gaps for women supporting women. And you've also launched the She Talks magazine, which has been trending nationwide, and the She Talks membership, changing the way women network and support each other. And you know, that's just for now.
I'm tired. Now I'm tired. I just got tired listening. I was like, wait, am I doing all that? I'm so tired.
Oh my goodness. So where do you get the energy? Because you have got such high energy and you're so very generous in sharing that energy with others to gain their inspiration to find their own.
Yeah, I think my energy started in sports. I learned early on how to have to do a lot and multitask and deal with a lot of stress and power, but still perform. And so I attribute a lot of that to my first many years of sports experience and playing. And, in sports, sometimes you only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep and then you got to go play and perform and be at your top. So I also think I thrive off of chaos. I think I do. One of my friends told me that. They're like, you thrive off of this. And I'm like, yeah, I'd probably be bored if I wasn't doing anything. So, but I just, after my mom passed away 10 years ago, I just really felt like life is a gift and you need to live it and don't waste the time. And so that was kind of a real pivotal moment of me just really thinking, how do I give back? How do I create legacy? How do I make change? Because that's something my mother did. And so I think that is something as well that really just kind of pushes me to do the things that we do.
Oh, I love that. What an amazing legacy you're leaving for your mum and through your mum, because it sounds like she really inspired you to be this way and to want to follow on in her footsteps, which I'm sure was part of the legacy that she dreamed that she left. So it's amazing to see that come to fruition for her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She was a servant leader. And when I watched over 300 people show up to her funeral, people that she had impacted, it was a real just moment of like, wow, who would come to my funeral and who have I impacted? And that just really shifted my mindset of like, we can be servant leaders and we can still do our businesses and have our passion and make money. But if I shift the way that I approach what I do, to leave a legacy. I have a daughter who's 15, a son who's 12. For what my mom left for me, that she really was the one who inspired me to just push ahead and start things like She Talks.
Oh, I love it. And again, great legacy for your children as well. Is that driving that spirit? And that's totally resonates. My little girl is my North Star. She is my reason for being, and everything that I do is trying to show her how she can be the best that she can be and break away probably from some of those older more norm traditions that certainly when I was growing up, where girls should be seen and not heard. I didn't do very well at that, I'm afraid.
Me neither.
Still failing dismally at the be seen and not heard. But I want to move that and say, actually, we should be seen and heard, all of us, irrelevant of our age, our race, our gender. And we should be able to stand up and step into the light that we are supposed to shine. And you do that so beautifully. And with the likes of She Talks, you're creating that space, aren't you, for other people to
Mm.
find a safe space to take that risk, because it does feel like a risk, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, early on in my career, I mean, you probably can't tell, but I'm a bit of an overachiever. And when I know you would never know. I think, but I mean, all joking aside, it's just something that's kind of built inside me. It's how I was
Yeah.
made, is the best way I can describe it. But I started early in my career in all things I was doing, right? And so I was a bit of an oddball, and I loved business, and I was in male-dominated industries. And, no wasn't part of my vocabulary. Failing wasn't part of my vocabulary. I was incredibly stubborn. And as you said, I was very, I voiced my opinion and I stood out. And as I grew in those industries, there was such a lack of women in the industries. There was a lack of mentorship and there was a lack of safety. It was really dog eat dog. And I had to really watch myself so that I could stay above board, so that I didn't get caught up in these types of very unsafe situations. And She Talks really came from that area of that when I left that industry that I was really good at, but didn't have a passion to stay in. I thought to myself, I don't have any women to lean on. I don't have any women mentors. I don't have any woman to talk to who knows what I'm going through, because it's very different. What I had was several vicious women who seemed hell-bent on making my life miserable, and I couldn't figure out why. And so that really came from a deep area of like, how do we change this? How do we stop this divide, right? Because even now today, women seem incredibly divided, right? And so that idea that I had of like, have you ever met someone and you right away kind of stereotype them? And then you get to know them and you hear their story and you're like, oh my God, like, why did I think that about you? Right? Like a lot of times people say like, you're so intimidating when you come into a room, Julie. And I'm like, well, I'm 6 foot tall and I used to play sports. I'm supposed to look intimidating. But I just had this thing of like, where's my tribe? Like, who can I rely on? And, I had my mom and my sister, but they didn't work in those industries, so they didn't always understand the struggle. And so She Talks came from this place of like, how could we create a platform for women to share their stories, to be vulnerable, to be honest, and realize that we're not as different as we think, and that fill that divide, that gap of us women thinking that we have to be like this, like, oh no, I can't, I have to climb the top. And if I got to step on your neck and stab you in the back, do it. Oh, well, I've just got to get there, and really change it to this thing of like, we're not so different. Let's climb this ladder together. You're good at this. I'm good at this. There's plenty of room at the table for both of us to make this difference. And that was really my dream, that at first I thought, I don't know if women can do this. Like, I don't know if they can put things aside, put down their barriers, put down the pettiness and do this. And I was pleasantly surprised. The first one we did, we thought we might get 20 women. We got 100. We were like, okay. Then the second one, the university wanted to sponsor us, and we got 250 women. And I mean, I had women who were barrier breakers calling me going like, I just want to come. You don't even have to pay me to speak. I just want to be part of this. And I was like, okay, we're striking a nerve. There's something going on here. And of course, that was about 7.5 years ago. And now we're a growing, thriving community. And one of the words you said was safe. And I really pride myself on that, because having a safe community for women from all walks of life is so important, because we don't know everyone's situation. But if they feel safe in that community, then they're going to thrive. And that's important to me. And whenever we find someone who maybe isn't really wanting to resonate with the mission and vision, they kind of funnel themselves out real quick. We don't even have to do it. They just kind of go, nope, and they're out. And that's just really like, that's my passion. Is I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I just think if I can leave this world a better place, if she can have a tribe when I didn't have one, if we can get thousands of women to give back, like, that's going to be like a domino effect, right? It's just going to keep going around the world. It starts in one spot and it just keeps going. Now we have women like yourself who I've met who are in other parts of the world. We have people in Australia, New Zealand, Ireland. So we're now expanding internationally and bringing in all cultures, which is, to me, just incredibly powerful, for women to find sisterhood around the world. And so that was just really my vision. And it's exciting that it's taking off, and in a really great way. And it's expanding. And this has always been my give back. I've never made any money off of this. I have other companies. And now we're trying hard to figure out, how do we expand properly, and we do it the right way. We create sustainability for it. But that was just kind of like the vision behind it.
I love it. And you've definitely achieved that. I love being part of the community since we met. And I think safe space is so needed, because you touched on it before. Actually, when you were cutting your teeth in these kind of industries, and I did the same. I was on financial services for 30 years, and that's no easy ride.
Yeah.
But actually, women were some of the worst. And some of the biggest challenges from other women than I did from some of the men. And it was almost that, you mentioned it, but people with if I have to stand on your head to get there, I will do. And it's like, why do we have to compete?
Right.
Why are we coming at it from a position of scarcity? And why can we not collaborate, and can we not find a path through? And I think that's driven a lot of people to feel insecure about being vulnerable, being brave enough to share where they're going. But it's not until we embrace our vulnerability that we can get through it and we can grow. And I think, for me, that's part of what really resonates with what you're doing with She Talks, is that it's providing that space. It's providing that, and it also is providing a space for people to reach back and help the next person up. So that that give back piece, that being able to say, look, I get it. I know it's like to be where you are. I know what it's like to have to navigate some of these situations that we really shouldn't ever have to navigate. But we do. And I think that the fact that now more and more people are getting there, I can see why it resonates. And what I also love about your mission and what have you is, like you said, good mission should repel as many people as it attracts. So the people that don't want to make that change, that don't want to be open, that don't want to get there, it will eventually repel them, because they realize they aren't going to be able to succeed in the same way that they've perhaps succeeded in other areas. This is really about that we're stronger together piece, isn't it? And that kind of like drive for people to want to see other people do well. So what's next for you?
Oh gosh, right. Well, I mean, we're in the process of building out our magazine, which is done incredibly well, and I love it, because this month we focused on Women's History Month, and so women came in and told stories of their grandmothers, their great grandmothers, because I challenged them to find women who made change but maybe never got their day. There where someone recognized it, and it was really impactful, and it resonated with me that we're continuing to build platforms to tell stories, even tell the stories of women who can't tell their stories. And it's important, right? Like, how do we bring to light those women who are the scientists in the background, like saving lives that no one ever knows about, but you know about? And we want to recognize that. I always love the story of talking about Alice, who was the scientist who figured out that X-rays on pregnant women were causing childhood cancer. And she found this out. And it was 25 years of fighting with people for them to stop X-raying pregnant women, despite all her proof. And I think about her story and the struggle. I mean, who would stick it out for 25 years, right? But like, what a testament to the efforts of a woman who changed, not just saved thousands of childhood cancer lives, but so many more, right? Because this day, a woman goes in to get an X-ray, they ask, are you pregnant, right? And if you aren't, they don't do it. And so I think about those women and how it's our job to keep their legacy alive. And we're doing that through the magazine. We're doing that, obviously, through the She Talks. We're doing that through the memberships, bringing women together. And we're even trying to integrate in some AI technology, which is so far over my head. My team explained it to me, and I was like, that sounds good. Go for it. So,
you said.
Yeah, it sounds great. The AI world, every time someone talks to me about AI, I'm just like, I think Terminator. And I'm like, as long as nothing happens like Terminator, we're good. You can tell I'm old because I'm mentioning Terminator. But I think probably one of my lifelong goals, would be to really just create a sisterhood that's so huge with She Talks. It's so worldwide, right? That the impact would be happening in countries around the world. I mean, that would probably be my lifelong goal, which is big. And obviously that would mean I'd be doing this for the rest of my life. But I think as it continues to catch on, I mean, I'm floored by the women I'm meeting, like, and the stories and the impact, and it betters me as a person, right? Because
Yeah.
I get to learn from them. And if I'm having a pity party sometimes and someone tells me this story and I'm like, oh my God, why am I having a pity party? Like, you've been through the ringer, you've gone through this. So, I love to see that. And I want to just keep creating connections. I want to see women write books together. I want to see them create podcasts together, businesses together, solve world problems together. Like, I want that to happen. And just really, my goal is to close that divide, right? Like, we can have different religions and different political beliefs, but when it's all said and done, we're all women, we're mothers, we're business owners, we're facing those issues.
Yeah.
So that's really my goal. And I think that's obviously a huge, massive goal to try and connect different cultures. But I think that, I think about my daughter and the legacy I want to leave. And so that's what's driving me to just keep building that out. And it's going to be an interesting ride to see how it goes. But I have, real belief that it's something that's going to continue to grow and make change.
I completely agree. And I think, you're going about it in just the right way, because the one thing that I've always thought and shared with people is the one thing that connects us all, irrelevant of our age, our race, our gender, our culture, is that we all teach and we all learn through stories. So it's how we've done it since the caveman drawings or the hieroglyphics. So actually, if we can share more stories, we'll find ways to connect. We'll find that commonality where we learn and we grow together. And I think that's the beauty of what you're doing, is creating that safe space where people can share those stories, and not just their stories, but the stories that have been passed on to them that they know, so that that learning, that knowledge, that empowerment stays alive. And it is all down to that domino effect, isn't it? You put the ripple out there and it grows and grows. And I think that's why you're then getting so many. And I mean, this month's magazine was amazing. There's so many fascinating stories in there.
Was, yeah.
But be inspired. I was all kinds of emotions, if I'm honest. You learned so much. There was such spirit in those stories, and that piece that was that the amount of drive, the amount of determination, the amount of getting up no matter how many times you fell, because what you were doing was too important not to. That was kind of the underlying sense that I got from some of those stories. And that's kind of what we need. It's not about how many times you fall down, it's to make sure you get up every time you fall down. Do it slowly, so that you keep going. And I think that's going to be what helps us to really affect the change, isn't it? It's raising the debate, keeping the voices going that allow us to learn new perspectives and find better ways to collaborate with people that maybe alternatively we would not have found a way of speaking to.
Yeah, I know. I agree. The story that Andrea Bell wrote on her, I'm not sure if it was a great grandmother or I think it was a great grandmother, but that story of trekking through frozen area and lost her son and husband, and her shoes froze to her feet. And I mean, I'm reading this story and I'm like, what else is going to happen to this woman? And then hearing that she made it and then still lived this fruitful life and had more. I mean, I was just like, oh my God, like that's an amazing story. And it reminded me of what women were doing at that time, trying to come to the US and find a new life for themselves. And I agree with you. I was so proud of that issue, because it was just really, I mean, it's interesting and riveting and touching and impactful. And, some articles I had tears because I was just reading the journey of the woman, and I'm just like, wow, but I mean, that's what it's all about. Right. And I'm so thankful because we have it so much easier, right? I mean, we have everything we need at the touch of our fingertips, and so I think, we've got all this amazing technology. Now we can use it, right, to reach people in the matter of seconds or minutes, which I think is really powerful. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how that goes and we've got another exciting episode, a really exciting cover, which I can't announce yet live, but I can tell you later. But it's going to be a really, really cool cover.
Oh, no, I'm looking forward to that. And I think, for anybody watching, I highly recommend check out She Talks magazine, because every edition's been brilliant and it's such a lovely community. And it really is about that, like you said earlier, it really helps you in those moments where you're having a pity party. For right. I have got nothing to have a party about here. In comparison, my world's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that moment, don't we? Well, sometimes we need that moment to kind of kick us out of that, to help us find that path out, or that piece where you look at it and go, okay, I might not be happy with things the way they're going for me right now, but at least that's not happening to me. At least I am not facing that challenge, or that very often that myriad of challenges. And you think, how do you find the strength to just plow on? And yet they do. And you think, well, actually, it always reminds me of the fact that every single one of us has survived 100% of the shots life's taken at us. It's a pretty good batting average. Yeah. And yet every time we're faced with another challenge, we immediately assume we can't achieve it. And you're like, okay, well, where's my evidence for that? Because I've overcome everything else. So I try and remind myself of that when I get into that, oh my God, what now? It's like, well, hold on. Okay, you might not know how to get over it right now, but you didn't know how to get over any of those other things, and you're still here. And you're still trying, and you're still showing up. So focus on the bits you can do. And I love the fact that the goal is a big, audacious, scary goal. It was Eleanor Roosevelt that said we should do something every day that scares us. And that is a big, scary goal. But because of that, it's going to be a goal that drives you, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
So what would you say has been the greatest lesson you've learned so far?
Oh, my gosh, there's so many lessons I've learned from business to people. I think something, especially with women, because I think women are very unique to deal with.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know what version of the woman you're going to get, right? But something I learned when dealing with people is that if they're tough to deal with, it's not always you. You just happen to be there in the moment that they're dealing with that. Because oftentimes people will project negative things on you and you'll think, gosh, why would you do that to me? And I started learning that, when we don't know the story of someone, we don't always know what's going on. So I think the biggest lesson I've learned is to give grace whenever I can. And giving that grace oftentimes opens up other opportunities that I wouldn't have found if I didn't give them that moment of grace. And so that's something that, as I dive deeper into working with women, because I really have worked with men most of my life up until, She Talks. And I was very comfortable working with men. They're easy. They're very non-emotional. You don't have to deal with much stuff, and they get straight to the point. And dealing with women was a whole new ballpark for me. And then becoming a mom, I realized that I needed grace for myself, because being a mom isn't easy. So that's something that I've taken in. And then I'm also hoping to help other women realize to give each other grace, because very often we don't. And now I'm not saying that every person deserves it, but I think that it's worth giving an opportunity to dig deeper.
I love that, because I think you're right. We leap to judgment, and actually sometimes I was saying this to my little girl the other day, actually, about a little boy that it picked on her at school. And I said, I wonder what's going off in his life. And she went, what do you mean, Mummy? After we talked about, how did you make you feel, etc. And I said, well, people don't hurt you on purpose, darling. People hurt you because they're going through something that's making them feel pain. And pity loves a party. So if I'm feeling pain, I want somebody else to feel pain as well. I said, so I just wonder what's going on in his world that makes him feel that this is going to be what he has to do. I said, maybe next time, if he does it again, ask him how he's feeling. So she came back the next day and she went, Mummy, you did it again. He went to pull my hair. I said, did you? What did you? She said, I said to him, would you like a hug? And she said, and he just looked at me and he went, yes, please. She said, so I hugged him and he's not pulled my hair again.
I love it.
That might have been just a bit of grace that he needed to allow somebody to have a positive, because we don't know what's going on in somebody else's world. And I remember many years ago doing a big redundancy, and the day before saying to the board, said, Kim, are we ready? So Reddy's where we're going to be. Because he can go, should we postpone? And I was like, no, what I mean is, we're about to tell 1,800 people that their job is at risk. I don't know what impact that news is going to have on whatever burden they're already carrying, nor will I ever know. So all I can do is be comfortable with the uncomfortable and give them grace to hold the space for whatever it is, however they're going to have to deal with that, and find a path through it. And I think that is, I love that you shared that piece on grace, because I think it is one of the greatest lessons in leadership is actually, how do we find grace for ourselves and grace for others? Those moments of saying, our brain will always lead to judgment. Our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. But if we can step straight in there with our thinking brain and go, hold your horses for a moment, just let's see what's going on, then actually we might find a much easier way of working together and connecting.
Yeah, fully agree. Absolutely.
So if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, particularly as a female leader, what would it be?
Great question. I ask people that question a lot too. I think, I would say to myself to just be confident, push through it, ignore the negatives. I think as a young woman, the toughest thing is listening to the noise and being worried about what people think about you, right? That's a tough one, right? I always wanted everyone to like me. And when they didn't, I couldn't understand why. And it just bothered me. It would give me a stomachache. And my mother was really great about this. She would just be like, listen, wear what you want to wear. I look back at my outfits and I'm like, what was she thinking? Right. But she would say, if that makes you feel great, wear it. Who cares what anyone else says? And I think I would have consisted to say, like, just be you. The process of trying to figure out my identity and who I was, right? And I tried to adopt everyone else's because that was successful. And I was nervous at being just Julie, silly, fun, smart Julie, right? Because I like to have fun and be silly, but I am a strong leader and I am intelligent. And I know I used to not want to show people that I was smart because I didn't want them to look down on me. So I think I would have really pushed myself to just be my authentic self so much earlier on in life than when I started to figure it out in my 30s. And just ignore the cultural norms and things that are yelling at you to be perfect and to look a certain way. And I hope too that message I can continue to share, not just with women my age, but younger women, with all the photography and apps, everyone looks perfect online, and it's really a message that, is sent to our young women about perfection and not being yourself. It's about looking the part. And so that's just a real big passion of mine. And I went through that struggle, and I hope that I could help other women, especially younger women, not have to go through that struggle, right? Just ignore the noise, embrace who you are. And it's not easy because people are mean. People are really mean. I keep my kids off of social media. They don't have any social media. Why? Because people are mean. And move forward. And so that's what I think about when I think about, back when I was in my 18s and 19s and 20s. And now I'm 46, looking back thinking, if I wish, and this is where I wish I would have had a woman mentor, right? I mean, I had my mother who was wonderful, but when you're working in an industry, sometimes you need that industry expert to be like, hey, I've been there. Let me give you a little advice, right? So that's what I think about. And like I said, like you said, your daughter drives everything, my children as well. And especially my daughter, she's 15 going on 25. I mean, she's just like, okay, when I start driving and going to college and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I still see like the little kid that's like, hi, mommy, and I'm like, what? You're in college in 3 years? Like what? And so she drives me every day to be better and to leave it better for her. And so and so that advice that I told you I would give to myself, I've been giving it to her, and saying, like, I said the same thing to her. My mother said, she came out and she goes, what do you think, Mom? I go, does it make you feel great? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, then wear it. So that's kind of my goal.
It so resonates because, I think the same. I spent many years desperately trying to fit in and be what everybody else expected. And I lived my life as a hyperactive puppy dog most of the time. So it was really hard to box that part of my personality until I realized I can do both. I can lead and be successful and still be a hyper excited human
Yeah.
being. And I think that, you know, sharing that message younger, sharing that piece. You know, my little girls sometimes will come down and she got dressed the other day and I was like, okay, we've got sequins and netting and we're going to Asda. I mean, with the supermarket. We're not going anywhere else. Somebody was like, "Are you going to a party?" I was like, "No, this is how we go shopping for the weekend." But she felt great, and it's like, I don't care if that's what makes you feel good, and then that's what you should wear, because we do now live in a despair and compare society, don't we? We compare ourselves to the seemingly perfect life of others, and we compare it with the messy reality of our own, and we find them lacking. But you know, as I share, I don't share the no makeup selfie. That is my gift to the world. And when I've not had a good night's sleep, or when I've burnt dinner, which happens because sometimes I get carried away playing with Scarlett. But so we only ever post the best version of ourselves. But the reality is we're not like that all the time. And I think I love that the message you're sharing is actually to just be who you are, who you really are in the moment, flaws and all, and that trust that will be the right you to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love hearing that. My daughter, I have all kinds of weird pictures of things she'd come out and then I'd be like, all right, well, let's just say, you know, like she'd put on like 3 hats and like all sorts. I had a picture of her with a like bucket on her head and a hat and like these jackets on, watching TV. And I was like, okay, well, that works for you. You know, so
that's you feel good if that's how you're rocking it. I think
I was just gonna say it drives her crazy because her school requires uniforms, and she's just like, "This is so constricting, Mom."
Does she try and like design them up a little bit herself, like trying to? I've got visions of her trying to do a Cruella, you know, and start to.
Oh yeah,
It's not as bad as that, but you know what I mean. Almost like, how far can I get away with making it mine? Because I think they've got a real drive, haven't they? That you know, the younger generations, which I love, have got that real sense of being themselves, and I think that's because they've got parents, older parents like us, that are going, let's not do it the way we did it. Let's not put them in boxes, and let's let them step into who they're going to be, which is amazing. And I'm excited to see what impact they're all going to have, because imagine the world they're going to create.
Oh my gosh. And if we could reach, you know, just imagine if you reach 50% of the youth, right? Which is a huge number. And 50% of those kids had that belief and they made change. I'm not saying that they would solve all the world's problems, but they'd come pretty darn close to solving a lot. And if our young women could start with that confidence, like I wish I had had that confidence when I was young. I mean, I love my daughter's confidence. I mean, sometimes she's a little overconfident. I'm like, honey, like, let me just give you a little reality check here. But I'm like, you know what? I'd rather you go in and be confident and go after it. And if you fail, you fail. It happens, you know, but I just think, you know, you and I both feel this because we have daughters. And of course, I love my son as well. He's 12 and he is just a boy. He is so funny. But I think if all of us start making that effort, which I think many of the women in our generation are, because we went through it and now we're seeing it. And I'm an older mom. I didn't have my kids until my 30s. Many of my friends had them in their 20s. I was playing sports and traveling the world. So, you know, being 46 right now, I have such a different perspective on life, but I'm really thankful that I can give that back to my daughter. Like I've gone through it and now I can be like, okay, I had my identity crisis. I had my early midlife crisis, as I joke about it. Like, you know, I failed like so many times on my face. But she gets to see me do all my business. Like I don't keep anything off from her. Like I let her just see me struggle through it all. I'll be like, oh, that was rough. I lost that client, or, oh, this client hasn't paid their bill in 6 months, or, you know, like let her just really see like me in life. Right. I think it's just really helped her grow as a person. You know, me not trying to be this perfect mom in front of her, because that's so not perfect, you know.
And it makes it so unrealistic for them, doesn't it? You know, I'm an even older mum, so I had Scarlett at 43. I'm 50 now, and I think it's for me personally, it's a blessing, because when I look at how I can be with her, in comparison to the mum I would have been in my 20s or 30s, because of where I was at that point in my growth journey, I know I'm much more equipped to help her now than I was then. And you know, my drive in life was to raise a daughter who is sassy, classy, and a little badassy, and that sometimes bites me in the butt when she's got the sassy and badassy nailed some of the time, age 7, and occasionally I have to like remind her that we have to layer the classy in there as well if she doesn't mind.
I love that. That needs to be like a bumper sticker. That's a great thing. So I love it so much.
It was that piece of that's not how we were brought up to be. And it's like, why shouldn't we be? Why shouldn't we be able to step in and be confident? And I always say to us, you know, as long as you're kind, then actually there's nothing else anyone can expect of you. To be kind, but that kindness has to be to yourself as well as to others, because that was something that I didn't learn till later on in life. I managed the kind to others, but I wasn't very kind to myself. And that can be a really damaging thing. And that, again, that's something I see you talk about a lot within She Talks, so that people understand it's that balance, isn't it? It's that doing to others as you would do to yourself is the same, we all know, but actually doing to ourselves as we do to others is probably the way we need to learn it often, particularly as women.
Absolutely. If you can't love yourself, you're going to struggle in many other things, because you're just putting up a barrier for yourself. You're putting up a stop, right? Like if I think I'm ugly, then I'm going to have a difficult time moving forward and doing stages or podcasts or things because I'm ugly. If I think I'm not good enough and I think it long enough, I'll believe it. Our mind is so powerful, right? Like we can literally, fear is one of the most biggest things that stop people from doing stuff. And most fear is just in our head, right? And it's crazy the power that our mind has, right? And how we can literally, like every time people go like, what were your biggest barriers that stopped you? I'm like, myself. Look, I can't literally say this person stopped me, because they didn't. You know, it was really me who didn't have confidence or didn't believe I was good enough or pretty enough or smart enough. You know, and I went through that phase for a good 10 years of my life. This is why I have an 8-page resume, because I was like, if I just get one more degree, if I just do one more thing, if I win just one more award, I'll be good enough, right? It wasn't until like 10 years into this, I ran into a professor who told me I wasn't smart enough. And he asked me, oh, so how are you doing? And I started going through my mind. I had all these businesses and I had doctorate degrees and I had all these, and I was like, well, holy cow, I am smart enough. You know, and it took that moment of me running into the person who said I was stupid to go, oh my God, I'm not only just smart enough. I was always smart enough. I just made myself believe from some person who could care less about me, right? Why do we listen to people who don't care about us? We have other people who love us and they're like, you're beautiful, you're smart. And we're like, eh. But that guy over there who I don't know, who doesn't give a crap about me, I'm going to take what he says and hold it in. And so, you know, I'm big on that. Like I'm big on the women really loving themselves. And some of them have a long way to go. Trauma has happened in their life and they have a journey to get through. But I think that if we can acknowledge it and make it, and there's still days I look in the mirror and I go, oh my God, I am not 23 anymore. Right. You know, I find a new wrinkle and I'm like, oh Lord, okay. You know, I mean, we're human, right? I mean, we're human and women are expected to look good and be ageless and keep a perfect little body and multitask. And I mean, that's just the culture that's been bred into us. But if we're in a group, right, where women are, I just got on the phone with a photographer the other day, right? And she's like, I love your cheekbones. You're so beautiful. And I was like, I needed to hear that. like it was like, I hadn't had anyone tell me that in a really long time. And it was like, oh my God.
It's amazing impact it can have, isn't it? I was in the supermarket the other day, actually, and this lady did look like she was having a really bad day, but her hair looked amazing, just beautiful. So I went over and I was like, excuse me. And she looked a bit harassed, like, oh, what do you want now? You're going to work. I was like, can I just say, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but can I just say your hair looks absolutely beautiful. And I just thought somebody should tell you. And she like looked a bit taken aback, went, anyway, I'm going to leave you to your shop. Hope you have a lovely rest of the day. And off I wandered with Scarlett because I tried. And she came and found me 3 aisles later and she went, you know, you've just made my day. She said, I just wanted to come and find you to say thank you. And I was like, oh, now you've made my day. So look at that. Now we're all happy. Because sometimes it's just what we need, isn't it? For somebody to, no other reason, to just come and tell us something that they genuinely believe to be true. And I think we put those ripples out there and it can be just the thing that person needs to have an amazing day. I could chat to you, Dr. Julie, all night, as you know, and we often do. But I am very conscious that we're taking up your valuable time. So for the people listening and watching, and obviously I'll make sure it's in the show notes below, but how can they best reach out and get involved with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get involved in She Talks, leadandempowerher.com is a great place. If you want to write or propose a story to us for our magazine, shetalksmag.com. And then if you want to find me, it's drjulieducharme.com, which you can see my name spelled on the screen there because people always ask how to spell it. But drjulieducharme.com is where you can find me for all other things that you may want to connect with me on.
Amazing. And we will make sure all of those details are written in the show notes below so that people can just get to those links really quickly. Dr. Julie, it has been an absolute joy. And we would love to have you back on when you've got your next exciting announcements ready to come. But until then, thank you for sharing so much insight with us and sharing your journey. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.